The wind screamed across the jagged cliff, tearing at Kale's thin tunic as he struggled against the ropes that bound him to the cold stone altar. His heart pounded in his chest, each beat echoing the frantic chants of the villagers behind him. Red-painted faces twisted in fear and devotion, their arms raised as if to summon the creature they had worshipped for generations. Kale's stomach turned at the sight, but he forced his eyes forward, scanning the horizon. The sky was streaked with blood-red clouds, and the jagged peaks of the canyon glinted like sharpened teeth. A low, resonant rumble rolled through the ground beneath him, vibrating up through the rocks and into his bones. The villagers fell silent, their chants dying in startled gasps. Kale felt the hair on his neck rise. From the far side of the canyon, a shadow detached itself from the clouds, massive and gliding with terrifying grace. Its wings were longer than the cliffs themselves, scales shimmering like molten metal, eyes glowing with an unnatural amber light. The dragon had arrived. Fear screamed through Kale's mind, but he forced it down. There was no time to panic. He twisted against the ropes, testing their strength, but the knots were tight, almost mocking him. The dragon's gaze locked onto him, and Kale noticed something impossible. It wasn't roaring, it wasn't attacking. It was studying him, tilting its head, curious. The ground shook with each beat of its wings as it hovered over the canyon's edge. The villagers shouted in fear, some lifting spears, others throwing crude firepots toward the dragon. Kale knew that any sudden move could spark death. He took a deep breath, feeling the sting of cold wind against his face, and did something no one expected. He reached out toward the dragon, hand trembling but firm, palm open, showing that he meant no harm. For a moment nothing happened. Then the dragon dipped its massive head closer, and Kale felt the heat from its scales, the sharp scent of ozone and something faintly metallic. Its enormous snout hovered inches from his face, and Kale's heart jumped. He kept his hand steady. A low hum vibrated through the air, almost like a sigh, or a warning. Kale felt the ropes digging into his wrists, but he refused to struggle further. This was a moment of choice. A sudden scream tore through the cliff. One of the villagers had thrown a flaming torch, aiming to strike the dragon. Kale flinched, bracing himself, but before the fire could reach the beast, the dragon's wings swept in a gust of wind that sent the torch tumbling harmlessly over the edge. Dust and ash swirled, and the villagers stumbled, shielding their eyes. Kale's chest rose with relief, but it was short-lived. He noticed something strange. The dragon's scales were marked with intricate patterns, faintly glowing in the dim light. They were not random, they seemed deliberate, almost like symbols. Kale's mind raced. Could they be warnings? Messages? Or something older, something lost to history? He had read fragments of the old texts buried in the village library, stories of creatures that were more than animals, that could judge character and intelligence. Could this be one of them? Kale's resolve hardened. If he wanted to survive, he had to act smart. He slowly moved one foot to test the rope's slack. The dragon watched. Its eyes flicked toward his movements, then back to him, unblinking. Kale's stomach knotted with fear, but he forced himself to remain calm. One wrong move and he would be burned before he could even think. One small success could earn trust. He pressed his forehead against his palms, whispering a short, trembling apology to the dragon for what humans had done to it. Then he raised his head and made a soft sound, imitating the hum that had vibrated from the dragon. The creature's eyes widened, and Kale felt the air thrum with its reaction. Slowly, it lowered its massive head closer, brushing his shoulder with a feather-light touch that sent a shiver down his spine. The villagers gasped. Some fell to their knees, muttering prayers. Others froze, unsure whether to fight or flee. Kale's heart soared. It was a small victory, but a victory nonetheless. The dragon had acknowledged him. He felt a strange connection, a spark of understanding, and the realization hit him. He was no longer just a victim. He had a chance to survive, maybe even to change the way his world saw these creatures. But the cliff trembled. A massive shadow swept across the rocks behind the dragon, darker than the night, moving faster than the eye could track. Kale's blood ran cold as the dragon stiffened, its wings snapping open with a force that sent loose stones tumbling. The villagers screamed again, but this time in a mix of terror and awe. Something else was coming. Something bigger, something that even the dragon seemed wary of. Kale's eyes met the dragon's amber gaze. He knew the choice he made next could mean life, or instant death. And then a deep, echoing roar shattered the canyon air, louder and older than anything Kale had ever heard. The dragon tensed, its wings vibrating the ground, and Kale realized with a chill that the danger was far from over. The moment hung suspended. Kale, tied to the altar, facing the unknown, understood one thing with absolute clarity. Survival would demand every ounce of courage, cleverness, and heart he could muster, and the dragon might not let him fail. And then the shadow shifted, and the cliff trembled as something enormous emerged from the clouds. Kale's stomach dropped as the shadow loomed over the cliff, a shape so vast it blotted out the blood-red sky. The dragon he had begun to trust stiffened beside him, wings trembling like a coiled spring. The wind howled in sudden fury, tossing dust and loose stones into Kale's face. Behind him, the villagers screamed, some turning to flee, others frozen in panic. But Kale had no choice. He had to act. He twisted against the ropes again, feeling the rough fibers bite into his wrists. Each second he wasted could cost him his life, or the life of the dragon beside him. His mind raced. The enormous shadow moved with terrifying speed, and Kale realized it wasn't the same dragon. It was another, larger, darker, with jagged scales like black obsidian and eyes that burned red as fire. Its wings beat with the power to shatter stone. "Kale!" someone shouted behind him. One of the villagers had dared approach, holding a spear with trembling hands. "Run. It's coming for you." Kale shook his head. Running was impossible. He had to survive here, and if he moved carefully, maybe he could save the dragon too. He leaned toward the creature beside him, whispering a trembling apology and encouragement, his voice barely audible over the roar of the wind and the beating of monstrous wings. The dragon lowered its massive head slightly, almost as if acknowledging his words, but its muscles twitched, ready to spring. Kale's gaze darted over the cliff edge. Loose rocks, a narrow ledge, the altar itself. He needed leverage. If he could move just a little, maybe he could guide the dragon down the cliff safely, or distract the larger beast long enough for both of them to survive. He took a shallow breath and shifted his weight, testing the ropes again. The dragon's eyes followed every small movement, and Kale felt a spike of fear. One false move and the dragon might panic. Or worse, the new creature might strike before he could react. Then a thought struck him. The patterns on the first dragon's scales, he had noticed them yesterday, faintly glowing in strange sequences. Maybe, just maybe, the dragon understood gestures and signals. Maybe it wasn't just a mindless predator. Maybe it could learn. Kale raised his hand slowly, pointing toward the ledge and then to himself, a crude but intentional gesture of guidance. The dragon hesitated. Its wings flared slightly, catching the wind and causing a shower of pebbles to tumble down the cliff face. Kale held his breath, heart hammering. Then, almost imperceptibly, the dragon nudged his shoulder, shifting just enough to let him slide a small distance toward the cliff's edge. It was a tiny victory, but one he desperately needed. The larger shadow swooped closer, claws tearing the air, and Kale realized they had only moments. He scanned the ground quickly, spotting loose rocks near the altar. With a sudden burst of courage, he grabbed a handful and hurled them toward the larger dragon. The rocks clattered against the cliffside, producing sparks and echoes. The larger dragon shrieked, halting midair, its attention drawn to the noise. Kale seized the moment. He dug his heels against the stone, using every ounce of strength to wriggle free. The ropes chafed and snapped with a final harsh sound. He stumbled forward, catching himself on the altar's edge just as the first dragon swept its wings wide to shield him. The villagers gasped. Some cried out in fear, others in wonder. Kale realized he had just bought them, and himself, precious seconds. "Follow me," he yelled, voice cracking but firm. The first dragon bent low, wings brushing the cliffside, allowing Kale to leap onto its massive back. The scales were hot beneath his palms but firm and steady. The dragon's head turned slightly, almost as if asking, "Are you ready?" Kale nodded, gripping its ridged scales. Then as one they leapt off the cliff. Wind tore at his face, eyes watering. The villagers screamed below, some cheering, some shouting in terror. The larger dragon roared, wings slicing through the clouds like blades. It dove toward them, intent clear, but Kale acted quickly. He leaned, shifting his weight to signal the first dragon to veer sharply. They banked hard, narrowly avoiding a spray of jagged rocks, and the larger dragon's claws scraped empty stone where Kale had just been. High above the canyon, Kale's pulse raced. The wind ripped through his hair, and adrenaline coursed through every vein. But he noticed something remarkable. The dragon seemed to respond to his guidance, tilting its massive body in synchrony with his instincts. He wasn't just a passenger. He was a partner. And then came the smallest, most shocking signal. The dragon's eyes flickered and a low, melodic hum vibrated through the air, resonating inside Kale's chest. He felt it deep in his bones. It wasn't just sound, it was communication. A strange, alien language conveyed without words. Kale's mind spun. Could it understand him? Could he understand it? The answer wasn't clear, but the spark of connection was undeniable. The larger dragon wasn't done. It circled, faster this time, diving with lethal intent. Kale tightened his grip, heart in his throat. The first dragon roared, a sound that shook the clouds and spread its wings wide, creating a massive gust that threw the attacker off balance. Stones rained down, and the larger dragon was forced to pull up abruptly, retreating just enough to give them a fleeting edge. Kale gasped for air, exhilarated and terrified all at once. The cliff and village below were still visible, tiny and distant, yet he felt closer to them in this moment than he ever had on the ground. The dragon beneath him tilted its head, and Kale realized something powerful. The creature had chosen him, not to be a victim but as a companion, a guide, a human who could think, feel and act in ways that might just save them both. He grinned despite the fear, feeling a surge of triumph. But above the roar of wind and the flapping wings, a new vibration reached him, low and ominous. Something bigger than either dragon stirred somewhere far above the clouds. Kale's blood ran cold. Whatever it was coming. And this time there would be no altar to save him. Kale clung to the dragon's back, every muscle tense as the wind whipped around them. The first dragon, whose scales shimmered like molten bronze, dove between jagged clouds, twisting with uncanny precision as the larger shadowed beast pursued from above. Kale's heart pounded so hard he was sure the dragon beneath him could feel it. He had survived the ropes, the fire, and the first terrifying moments of flight, but nothing had prepared him for what he saw next. The cliff walls below were no longer simply jagged stone. As they banked over a hidden valley, strange structures emerged, ancient ruins etched with the same glowing symbols he had glimpsed on the dragon's scales. Kale's eyes widened. This was no ordinary creature. These markings were not decorative. They were a language, patterns of thought older than his village, older than anyone in the region remembered. He leaned forward, tracing them with his gaze, feeling a jolt of recognition, as though a part of him remembered these shapes from a dream he had never had. The dragon beneath him tilted its head toward the ruins, as if acknowledging his attention. Kale's mind raced. Could it be that the dragon was part of this lost civilization? Were these creatures not mere predators, but intelligent beings with history and purpose? He glanced down at the pursuing shadow. Its red eyes burned with rage, but the bronze dragon beneath him held steady, wings slicing the wind, scales glinting with a strange, silent authority. Then Kale noticed something more disturbing. From the ruins, faint pulses of light began to flicker, like the heartbeat of some hidden engine. The pulses mirrored the patterns on the first dragon's scales, flashing in sequences Kale could almost understand. A theory formed in his mind. This wasn't just a battle for survival. This was a test. The dragon had chosen him for a reason, and the symbols were a map, a guide, a clue to something far larger than he could yet imagine. The larger dragon screamed, diving lower, wings slicing the air with lethal speed. Kale dug his heels into the bronze dragon's ridges and leaned forward, signaling with instinctive gestures he hoped the creature would understand. The first dragon responded instantly, banking sharply, forcing the attacker to overshoot the maneuver. Rocks rained down, hitting the valley below, sending plumes of dust into the fading sunlight. Kale's stomach lurched. Every second mattered. One mistake now could end everything. Then came the first real moment of clarity. Kale reached out to touch the patterns along the dragon's neck, recalling fragments of ancient village texts he had memorized. The text spoke of companions chosen by the Sky Guardians, humans who could be trusted to guide or protect these creatures. His breath caught. Could he be one of these humans? Chosen for courage, intelligence, and heart? The idea was almost too enormous to bear, but the dragon beneath him, steady and unwavering, seemed to confirm it in its silent alien way. Suddenly, the larger dragon roared and lunged, forcing Kale to hang on with all his strength. The bronze dragon reacted instinctively, whipping a tail so massive it knocked the attacker aside, sending it crashing against the cliffs before it could regain control. Kale's heart leapt with relief, but he didn't dare relax. The valley below was a labyrinth of ruins and shadows, hiding unknown threats, and the air shimmered with energy he couldn't explain. Kale's mind raced. He had to do something, anything, to secure their survival and understand what was happening. Leaning closer to the dragon's head, he whispered, "Lead me. Teach me. Show me what to do." The creature lowered its massive wings slightly, and a strange vibration thrummed through the air, resonating in Kale's chest. The pattern of the vibration matched the glowing symbols below. His eyes widened. The dragon was communicating and he could feel it. A pulse of understanding hit him. The symbols on the ruins, the vibrations, the scales, They were all connected. The bronze dragon was not merely defending him, it was guiding him, teaching him. Kale felt a surge of courage. If he could interpret these patterns, he might survive, and he might even change the fate of his entire world. As if sensing his determination, the dragon beneath him surged upward, diving through the clouds in a sudden, breathtaking maneuver. Kale gritted his teeth as wind tore at his tunic and hair. The larger dragon followed, relentless, claws slashing through the mist. Kale clutched the bronze dragon tighter, adjusting his weight instinctively, and something incredible happened. The first dragon dipped its massive head, aligning with the symbols etched on its scales, creating a glowing trail that pulsed like a beacon across the valley. Kale realized with a jolt, this was a signal, a warning, or a guide. The larger dragon hesitated for a split second, eyes narrowing at the pulsing light. That hesitation was all Kale needed. Using every ounce of balance and quick thinking, he gestured, leaned and shifted weight in ways that guided the bronze dragon in a dizzying spiral through the ancient ruins. The pursuing beast faltered, its momentum threatening to send it careening into stone, but the bronze dragon was flawless, weaving with precision, Kale's heart racing with exhilaration and terror in equal measure. For a brief, shining instant, Kale understood something vital. He was not just surviving. He was part of this. The dragon had chosen him not as prey, not as a victim, but as a partner, a mind capable of interpreting, learning, and acting with courage. This realization was thrilling and terrifying. One mistake now, and the larger dragon could still strike, ending everything in a heartbeat. As the shadow dragon recoiled, regrouping for another attack, Kale saw something that froze him in place. In the deepest part of the valley, among the ruins, a faint outline of a second bronze dragon appeared, much smaller, wingless, and fragile, glowing faintly with the same symbols as the first. Its presence was quiet, almost imperceptible, but the implication hit Kale like a lightning bolt. There was more to this world than he had imagined. More creatures, more mysteries, and far greater dangers than a single pursuing dragon. Kale's heart pounded. He looked at the bronze dragon beneath him and whispered, "We're not done yet, are we?" The dragon's wings beat a rapid, synchronized rhythm, almost like an answer. Kale realized that this was only the beginning, and that the choices he made next would decide not only his life, but the lives of these creatures and perhaps the future of humanity itself. And above the valley, the shadowed dragon circled again, its roar echoing like thunder. Kale swallowed hard. The danger was far from over, and the real test was just beginning. Kale's grip on the bronze dragon's scales was white-knuckled as they circled high above the jagged valley. The shadowed dragon followed relentlessly, its red eyes burning like molten rock, wings slicing through the air with lethal precision. Below, the ruins glimmered faintly with the alien symbols, pulsing like distant stars, and Kale realized with a shiver that the valley itself seemed alive, watching, judging. Every instinct screamed danger, yet he knew there was no turning back. "Hold on." Kale shouted over the roar of the wind, leaning forward to communicate his intent. The dragon's wings snapped hard, banking sharply as if responding to his thoughts. Kale's stomach lurched as they spiraled downward, toward a narrow canyon that twisted like a jagged wound through the rocks. The pursuing dragon followed, claws outstretched, but the first dragon dipped and swerved with astonishing precision, dodging obstacles Kale hadn't even noticed until now. Adrenaline surged through Kale. He was terrified yet exhilarated. This wasn't just a chase, it was a test of instinct, courage, and intelligence. Every movement had consequences. A single miscalculation could mean death for him, the bronze dragon, or both. Kale leaned harder, signaling the dragon with subtle shifts of weight, urging it toward a hidden ledge he had spotted below. He hoped the pursuing shadow wouldn't anticipate the trap. The shadowed dragon shrieked in anger, claws slamming against rock as it adjusted its course. Kale felt the bronze dragon tense beneath him. Its wings beat faster, slicing wind that shredded the clouds into ribbons. Kale pressed closer to its massive head, gripping a ridge near its neck, and whispered words he didn't fully understand himself. "We can do this. We have to." The dragon responded with a vibration that hummed through Kale's bones, a pulse of trust, warning, and power all at once. The canyon approached faster than Kale could track. He realized the walls were too narrow for the larger dragon to follow safely. He seized the moment. With a subtle tilt of his weight, he directed the bronze dragon to dive sharply through a tight archway of stone. The wind screamed, tearing at his face, and the dragon's wings scraped dangerously close to the cliff edges. Kale held his breath, feeling every pulse of air, every strain of muscle beneath him. Behind them, the shadowed dragon hesitated, Its enormous wings clipped against the canyon walls, sending showers of rock and dust cascading downward. Kale's heart leapt. Just a few more seconds. Just a little longer and the gap might save them. The bronze dragon roared, a sound that shook the canyon and reverberated deep in Kale's chest, and surged forward with breathtaking speed. Then came the most dangerous part. The canyon twisted into a vertical drop. Kale had seconds to act. He leaned forward, pressing his palms against the dragon's ridges, signaling it to twist midair and use the momentum to launch upward along a jagged wall. The dragon responded instantly, wings flaring, tail snapping with precision. Kale's stomach dropped as they scraped past jutting rocks, but the maneuver worked. They cleared the drop. The pursuing shadow, unable to replicate the maneuver, crashed violently against the canyon wall with a deafening roar. Dust and stone exploded into the sky. Kale's pulse raced as he realized they had survived, by inches, by courage, by intelligence. Below, the valley opened into a hidden expanse filled with alien ruins, massive structures that seemed carved from living rock, glowing faintly with the same symbols that had marked the bronze dragon's scales. The dragon beneath him dipped its head, allowing Kale to slide slightly forward, taking in the sight. His mind reeled. This place was ancient. Vast. It radiated power, knowledge, and mystery. Kale understood suddenly why the dragon had chosen him. He was not just surviving, he was meant to witness, to learn, to act. But there was no time to savor the moment. From the depths of the ruins, faint flickers of movement stirred. Something was awakening, something alive, ancient, and aware. Kale's eyes narrowed. The faint outline of the second dragon he had glimpsed earlier emerged fully now. A smaller, wingless creature, delicate but glowing with a soft, pulsating light. Kale realized with a jolt that this dragon was still vulnerable, still dependent on him and the bronze dragon for protection. Kale's heart pounded as he reached out instinctively. He whispered encouragements, and the bronze dragon lowered its massive head to nudge the smaller creature gently, shielding it. Every instinct Kale had developed in the last terrifying hours, quick thinking, courage, empathy, was now being tested. The pulse of alien energy in the ruins thrummed stronger, resonating with the dragons, and Kale felt it in his chest, a connection he could neither explain nor ignore. Then, the shadow dragon's faint echoes began stirring again from a distant ridge. Kale's pulse leapt. He realized survival wasn't enough. He had to act and act decisively. With a surge of determination, he leaned closer, pressing his hands to the bronze dragon's scales and signaling a bold move. They would ascend above the ruins, flying directly toward the hidden chamber at the valley's center, a place that pulsed with energy and knowledge. If the shadow dragon pursued, it would be forced into dangerous territory. The bronze dragon roared, understanding the plan instantly, and lifted Kale high. Wind tore at his hair, eyes stinging as the valley opened beneath them like a secret world. The smaller dragon followed instinctively, weaving through the bronze dragon's legs. Kale felt a wave of pride and fear all at once. They were still alive, but more was at stake than survival. The ruins, the symbols, the smaller dragon, everything demanded action, intelligence, and courage. Kale's mind raced. This was more than a chase. This was a challenge. And the first test had been survival. The next test would be leadership. The bronze dragon tilted its head toward Kale, eyes glowing faintly with the same amber light that had first captivated him. It was a silent question. Are you ready? Kale swallowed hard, heart pounding. He nodded. The ruins below shimmered with alien light, the smaller dragon's pulse quickened, and Kale realized that the moment of truth had come. He wasn't just a boy clinging to a dragon anymore. He was about to claim his place, and whatever awaited in that ancient chamber could change everything. Above them, the wind howled, the shadowed dragon screamed, and the pulse from the ruins grew stronger. Kale's fingers tightened on the ridges. The real fight was about to begin. Kale's hands clenched the ridges of the bronze dragon's scales as they soared above the heart of the glowing ruins. The valley stretched below him like a map of forgotten time, symbols pulsing across stone and dragon alike, casting light on the cliffs and alien structures. The smaller, wingless dragon followed, delicate and fragile, its glow flickering with every beat of the bronze dragon's powerful wings. Kale's chest pounded, a mix of adrenaline and awe. He was no longer a boy tied to an altar. He was part of something far larger, far older, and far more dangerous. The shadowed dragon had not given up. From the ridge above, its wings sliced the air, claws ready to strike. But Kale could feel the pulse of the ruins through the bronze dragon beneath him. They were aligned, connected. He realized with a jolt that the symbols weren't just patterns, they were instructions, guidance. Every instinct and decision in the last hours had brought him here, and now he had to act with clarity. Hesitation could cost everything. Kale shifted his weight subtly, signaling the bronze dragon to dive toward the center of the ruins. Wind tore past his face, hair whipping wildly, but the dragon responded instantly. They spiraled down, past jagged stone arches, landing with controlled precision in a circular clearing. The smaller dragon followed closely, brushing against his shoulder as if seeking reassurance. Kale exhaled sharply, realizing that the creature had trusted him completely. He was not merely a survivor anymore, he was a guide. The pulse of the ruins grew stronger, almost deafening now. Light shimmered across the ground, reflecting off alien carvings and illuminating Kale's astonished face. In the center, an enormous pedestal rose from the earth, etched with the same glowing symbols as the bronze dragon. Kale's eyes widened. The pedestal radiated energy, warmth, and a sense of judgment. He understood immediately, this was the moment of choice. This was why the dragon had chosen him. "Step forward," Kale whispered, mostly to himself. The bronze dragon lowered its head, letting him climb onto its back more easily. The smaller dragon moved ahead of him, hovering over the pedestal, its glow brightening as if urging him forward. Kale's heart thrummed with tension. The shadow dragon circled above, roaring in frustration, but Kale didn't flinch. Every second he hesitated, it grew stronger. Every decision he made now carried consequence. He stepped carefully onto the pedestal, feeling the alien symbols pulse beneath his feet. Energy flowed into him, strange, alien, alive. The bronze dragon nudged him gently, wings spreading protectively. The smaller dragon's glow intensified, swirling around him like liquid light. Kale felt fear, yes, but also exhilaration. Courage surged through him, fierce and unyielding. He had faced ropes, fire, terrifying flight, and a predator that could crush him with one swipe. And now he was here, chosen by a creature whose intelligence and strength exceeded anything humans had ever imagined. The pedestal vibrated, sending a pulse through Kale's legs. He braced himself. Then the symbols on the bronze dragon shimmered in perfect alignment with the pedestal, and the smaller dragon's glow merged with both of them. A sound resonated in Kale's chest, low and melodic, echoing through the valley, through the cliffs, through the very air. The energy flowed into him, and he realized what it meant. The dragon was not crowning him merely as a companion, it was making him its king. A wave of understanding washed over Kale. He could feel the responsibility, the weight, the bond. The bronze dragon's eyes met his, amber and alive, and Kale whispered softly, "I won't fail you. I'll protect you. I'll guide you." The creature dipped its massive head, touching him gently, and the bond sealed. The smaller dragon hovered closer, as if acknowledging him too. Kale's heart swelled with awe and pride. He had survived, yes, but more importantly he had proven courage, intelligence, and empathy could triumph where brute force alone could not. Then a sudden rumble shook the clearing. The shadowed dragon circled lower, clearly unwilling to retreat entirely. Kale's pulse spiked. But he didn't panic. The bronze dragon spread its wings, letting him feel the power beneath him. Kale lifted his arms instinctively, reaching toward the shadowed dragon, and a strange vibration resonated from the pedestal. The symbols pulsed brighter, a warning, or a challenge. Kale realized something. The shadow dragon was not an enemy to defeat, it was part of the next test, the next mystery. The ruins, the dragons, the energy, they were far larger than any single battle. Kale turned to the bronze dragon, gripping its ridges firmly. "We've only just begun," he murmured. The dragon responded with a low hum, vibrating through his chest as if agreeing. The smaller dragon's glow flickered once, twice, and then expanded, casting brilliant light across the valley. Kale felt a thrill of certainty. He had claimed his place, but he also knew this was the start of a much bigger journey. The creatures, the ruins, the hidden knowledge, they were waiting for him to explore, to protect, to lead. From the far ridge, the shadowed dragon let out a roar, less of aggression, more of recognition. Kale understood the truth now. He had not only survived, he had been chosen. He was a human capable of courage, intelligence, and compassion in a world that demanded more than instinct. And the dragons had recognized it. Kale's eyes swept across the glowing ruins. The bronze dragon's wings flexed beneath him, the smaller dragon hovered, pulsing with life, and the valley itself seemed to hum in anticipation. He inhaled deeply, feeling the pulse of energy, of life, of potential. Humanity had proven its value, not through domination but through understanding, bravery, and empathy. And yet, a whisper of unease crept into his mind. Somewhere beyond the clouds, beyond the valley, A far greater power watched, waiting. The ruins held more secrets, more creatures and more challenges. Kale knew instinctively that this was only the beginning. He turned to the dragons. "We'll face it together," he said. The bronze dragon nudged him gently, affirming the bond. The smaller dragon circled, light pulsing faster, almost like a heartbeat. Kale smiled, a mixture of pride and determination. He had claimed the crown, but the adventure, the mystery and the tests of courage were far from over. Above them, the shadowed dragon circled once more, then vanished into the clouds. The ruins pulsed softly and Kale knew the world had shifted forever. He had been offered as a sacrifice and now he was king. And somewhere deep in the glowing ruins, something ancient stirred, waiting for the next challenge.